Well, good morning and welcome everyone to our Marquette University 10th Annual Chicago Real Estate Leadership Breakfast. My name is Andy Hunt and I'm the Executive Director for the Veith Institute for Real Estate Leadership here at Marquette University. And I could not be more grateful to see everyone here this morning supporting our real estate, engineering, and legal education here at Marquette. And I'm also so grateful to our keynote speaker, Peter Borzak, for being here today. And I know I'm not alone in saying I can't wait for this inspiring conversation. I also want to take a moment to thank all the residents of Chicago for welcoming us to the city every year for this event. So more than 40% of our alumni are here in Chicago, and we feel a huge part of this incredible city, and we appreciate being here. And in that vein, I want to express gratitude to my colleagues and peers and friends of two outstanding real estate programs here in Chicago. So please join me in welcoming Reagan Pratt from DePaul University and Colette English Dixon from Roosevelt. Thank you. I also want to note, Bill Hudlow is here from Tulane University, another one of our peers. Bill, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. And your students, thank you. Collaboration is the key to everything that we do at Marquette. We want to be seen as a community that is welcoming for all. That includes our students interacting with all other universities, and for myself, with our peers. That level of collaboration is what drives innovation and impact in the lives of our students. We don't hold the candle of innovation in terms of real estate education under a basket. We open it up and allow everyone to be able to see it. And I could not be more appreciative of the community that we are in, not just Marquette University, but the real estate education community that we are in. All of you being here today are part of supporting that. And as you will see, there's a lot of gratitude that we have today. So I want to start off by, of course, giving a massive thank you to our annual sponsors, Associated Bank, Fiduciary Real Estate Development, Link, MLG Capital, NAI Pfefferly, and Spaceco Inc., and to our gold sponsors today, Cypress Holdings Group, Cypress Holdings Group, Norwood Builders, and Pine Tree, and of course, to our amazing silver sponsors, Connor Commercial Real Estate, Godfrey & Kahn, and Wintrust. Sponsors, you make the work that we do every day possible, and I do not know where we would be without you. Please join me in thanking these incredible sponsors. Next, there are so many individuals that made a day like today happen, so please join me in recognizing them: Caitlin Huebner, Vito Taphorn, Anthony Pennington-Cross, George Cashman, Mary Daly, Carly Zale, Mike Riopel, Greg Warzek, Patrick Fuller, and the incredible Melanie Ripke. Thank you so much to everyone for helping us. Finally, to our biggest supporters and advisors, our legacy members who are our top tier donors, and to our incredible advisory board members. I ask that any of our advisory board members who are here, please stand and be recognized. Thank you so much for your contributions. All right, now, with all due respect to our keynote, I think we know the stars of the show in our world are our amazing students. And this morning, I'm excited for you to meet one of them. Matt Waters is a senior double major in real estate and finance in the College of Business here at Marquette University. A native of La Crosse, Wisconsin, Matt has had an amazing college career. Matt serves as the president of the Commercial Real Estate Club at Marquette, where he has helped oversee the largest increase in club events in years. He's also a member of our prestigious Real Estate Asset Program, which is our $2 million student investment fund. And he was not only an Eisenberg Scholar this past year, based out of here in Chicago, but he was also a member of our undergraduate Real Estate Challenge team for the Harold E. Eisenberg Foundation. And he helped lead the team, as you can see, to a first place finish in an incredibly tough 19-team field this past spring. So congratulations to Matt, and please join me in welcome Matt to the stage.
Thank you, Andy, for those overly generous words. My mom would be super proud. And thank you all for being here today. This room is filled with movers and shakers, servant leaders, a prime example being Peter Borzak, and people that care about the next generation of commercial real estate leaders. Somehow, we all have something in common, a distinct passion for commercial real estate. So I grew up in the small town of La Crosse, Wisconsin. It was a great place to grow up, but when looking at universities, I wanted to go to a bigger city. So I decided to go to the East Coast of Wisconsin, that is, Milwaukee. I made one of the best decisions of my life to choose Marquette University as my soon-to-be alma mater. I remember my first semester at Marquette meeting with my advisor, Dr. Pennington Cross, but having trouble finding his office in the maze of the third or fourth floor of that old Strass Hall. Little did I know that in 4 quick years, I would be where I am today. I attribute my accomplishments and career readiness to the Marquette curriculum for molding me and shaping me to be the best person I can be, and the entire Veith Institute for helping guide me throughout my time at Marquette. With one of the few interdisciplinary real estate institutes in the US, it's no surprise that the Veith Institute for Real Estate Leadership ranks 12th in the nation for undergraduate real estate programs. Let's take a moment to celebrate that. Without an entire team of superstars rooting for me, Melanie Repke, David Krill, Dr. George Cashman, Dr. Anthony Pennington Cross, Vito Taphorn, and Andy Hunt, I wouldn't be able to achieve what I've done. This dream team set me up for success at a property management internship in La Crosse, Wisconsin, an internship with Mandel Group, a luxury multifamily and mixed-use developer in Milwaukee, and most recently, an international real estate development internship with a publicly traded company in Singapore. Through the expansive Marquette University network and the Veith Institute's resources, students are able to do job shadows, internships like I mentioned, receive guidance through mentors, and experience applied learning of practical career skills. These types of experiences allowed my classmates and I to perform well here in Chicago this year's Eisenberg Foundation Case Competition, like Andy said, where we brought home first place among 19 major universities across the nation. It is truly incredible that through the support of countless alumni, friends of the program, and your help, students like me get to experience success and achievements like this, go on national and international conference trips, and gain the skills to excel in a real estate career. It doesn't end there, though. Under the fearless leadership of Vito Taphorn, the director of the Real Estate Asset Program, I'm honored to be a part of the 4th cohort. This first of its kind undergraduate real estate investment program manages over $2 million and counting, and I can assure you it's in good hands. Things are going well. We analyzed, underwrote, and presented a deal this past Tuesday to the investment committee. It was a 118-unit Class A apartment deal in Milwaukee with historic tax credit aspects, which made it very interesting. To our IC members out there, I would definitely invest my own money in that deal. So to conclude, without you being here in this room supporting our program, none of this would be possible. On behalf of all students, including myself, thank you for believing in us, for supporting us, and for investing in us. I can guarantee that we will give a positive return.
Okay, I told you. Incredible. All right, please enjoy breakfast. We'll be back in another 10 or 15 minutes or so to begin the program. And thank you all again for being here. See you soon. All right, everyone, welcome back. Now, let everybody continue to enjoy your breakfast. Sorry to end some of the conversation, which is sometimes the best part of being able to gather at events like this. But I'm really excited to get us started by introducing our top Marquette partner here, and a friend and colleague of mine, Dr. Anthony Pennington Cross. So Anthony, or at APC, as the students refer to him, joined Marquette back in 2006, meaning this marks his 20th year with us at Marquette University. He is a past holder of the Robert B. Bell Senior Chair in Real Estate and is nationally renowned for his research in real estate finance. Not only is he a popular professor, but also an outstanding leader, having accepted the role 2 years ago of Executive Associate Dean for the College of Business Administration, where he is the number 2 in our college, and he oversees the day-to-day academic operations of our amazing business school. Please join me in welcoming Anthony Pennington Cross.
Good morning, everyone. I came down the train from Milwaukee with Andy, and he reminded me that I think he said I was the senior official from Marquette at this event, and so I would give a few words. And so this morning I went to Starbucks and I wrote down a few words. And I've seen deans give these talks many times, and I've always wished that they were shorter. So no offense to all the deans out there. So my comments will be pretty short. So first, I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. I want to thank Peter for being here today. I'm personally looking forward to learning from him on how to manage the situation today in real estate. I want to thank the sponsors, the attendees, and of course the faculty, staff, and the students who are here also, especially Matt, who we just heard from. So I'll just give a few words about what's going on at the college. So I would say that the last few years for the College of Business at Marquette, these have been really good years, not just because I became the Executive Associate Dean, but we have more students in the College of Business now than the college has ever had. We've had application growth for potential students in the double digits for the last two or 3 years. So the good news is that there's a lot of demand, but the bad news is that students that we would have accepted 3 years ago sometimes don't get into the college. But the other good news is that there are other colleges at Marquette that they could get into. So there's good and bad in that. And an important part of the growth of the College of Business has been real estate. Real estate, in fact, is kind of a model that we use for different programs in the college. I'll just give you like the most recent example is we're starting an insurance leadership program. And basically we're trying to hire or have hired, Andy 2.0 to be the director of that insurance program. And that's an important role for us. I'm an academic in my heart. I'm more than happy to sit at my computer and do research and write papers and give talks about academic pieces, but that's not always the greatest thing to translate to all of you to get the jobs. And so each program, each niche really needs to have a new Andy. So we've really, one of the engines of growth for us are these smaller programs that can become bigger programs like real estate. As Andy mentioned, this is unbelievably, I've been at Marquette and Milwaukee for the 20th year. And so I was thinking about kind of the main things that I remember from those 20 years. And one thing I really remember very strongly is after the financial crisis, we graduated 12 seniors in real estate. And I think all of us know here that as a faculty member, if we had 2 full-time faculty at point, that you can't have 2 faculty for 12 students. That's not economically viable. But today, the real estate major is the 3rd largest major in the college. So usually real estate is thought as a niche program, which means small, but at Marquette, it's a mainline program that helps really drive forth the growth. And today, we got over 50 students that are going to be graduating as seniors this year. So it's become a really important part of Marquette University. So I was thinking about the highlights, and unfortunately they've already been mentioned over the last few years. So the real estate asset program was a great innovation for us at the College of Business to have students actually involved in live projects. So we're very thankful to Vito on that front. And then the launching of the Veith Institute for Real Estate Leadership. So for a long time, we had a real estate center, and then it became an institute. And the thing that really has made it an institute is that it becomes real estate at the university. And so it's an integration really at the first steps with engineering and with law school inside the institute. So in the REAP class, right, we have a couple folks from law and from engineering in those programs. So everyone's learning from each other. And we're expanding the interdisciplinary opportunities for students across a variety of programs in the college. And then I think that's the main thing. And Matt, this was the moment I was going to reveal the great news that we were ranked as number 12 by U.S. News. So Matt stole my exciting news there. The only thing is, I'm doing this off my memory, which could be slightly off, but I'm pretty sure we've been in the top 15 seven of the last 10 years. So I'm honored to be part of this real estate program, which is, we can see here, is a growing national presence in academia and industry. So with that, thank you. Great to see everyone, and let's get on with the program that we're all here for. All right. Bye, everyone.
All right, well, surprise, Peter Borzak. We have a very special guest here to introduce our keynote. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Peter Eisenberg to introduce our keynote speaker. Peter is a co-founder of Ellis Park Partners and notably one of the most important leaders and supporters of real estate education and students anywhere in the country. As a chairman of the Harold E. Eisenberg Foundation, named after his father who tragically passed away young of gastrointestinal cancer, Peter has helped carry on his legacy through a foundation that supports real estate education and mentorship, as well as cancer research. We at Marquette could not be more grateful for the Harold E. Eisenberg Foundation, and in fact, many of our students today will be enjoying their annual Career Day event later this afternoon and tomorrow, an annual event where we deeply look forward to every year. But aside from all of this, Peter is a dear friend of our amazing keynote, Peter Borzak, and we appreciate them for being here. I should mention Sheila Eisenberg is also here, who we adore. Sheila, thank you for joining us as well. And please join me in welcoming to the stage Peter Eisenberg.
So I found it very challenging to prepare words for Peter for two primary reasons. One, for anyone that knows me, I am not very technologically savvy, so I did not have access to ChatGPT. Secondly, Peter is so important to me and so many others, it's really difficult to do him justice. So instead, I'm going to start by talking about Marquette and Andy. I've been in the unique position of admiring the Marquette real estate program for many years. I see Norris Eber back, who's been a longtime board member of Marquette and also has been heavily involved in our foundation. And from the beginning, Norris said Marquette and our foundation would be a perfect match. And I look back, Marquette's always done an incredible job with their academics. You can see it through the students. But what was really impressive was that Marquette was an early adopter of experiences outside of the classroom. And that's really where the intersection of our foundation and Marquette has taken place. Marquette students are consistently among the strongest participants in our programs. In fact, we have our 19th career day this year, and I think we have 30 students from Marquette attending. Marquette has always had a team at our real estate challenge, and Colette, I'm not sure if you're going to correct me on this, but Andy says that they've won four of the last 8 real estate challenges. Undergrad. But really what shines through is Andy's passion for the students. And he doesn't just send the students to our events, he accompanies them. And you can see how passionate he is, how much he cares about the students, and how he coaches them. And the results are in the students themselves. I mean, you saw Matt Waters today and so many others throughout the years. I want to say how personally grateful I am to Andy for being such a great champion of our foundation, being a sounding board and a connector for all of us. In fact, whenever we have new schools getting involved with the foundation, I urge them to get in contact with Andy because he really is the gold standard for educators. And I'd seen that Peter gained the moniker of nicest person in real estate. I think Andy deserves the moniker of nicest educator in real estate. I think I sent Peter a note chiding him for being the nicest person in real estate. But I looked up nicest guy. Someone kind, respectful, and considerate of others' feelings, who acts with compassion and genuine intentions to bring positive energy and well-being to others without expecting anything in return. I think that's a very appropriate description of Peter. I would bore you with all the details of how Peter's fingerprints are all over the Harold E. Eisenberg Foundation, going all the way back to 2005. Starting career day, a real estate development class, instrumental in the Real Estate Challenge, a white paper guiding our real estate education programs that we're still implementing today, spending a full day session with my family and me to vision what the foundation would look like, the LEVEL program, which develops a pipeline of highly qualified high school students from underrepresented minority communities, and providing them with opportunities for programming, on and on and on. Counsel in good times and in bad times for the foundation. On a personal front, Peter is family. We can sit down for hours on end and still have a lot to talk about. I've learned from him career advice, personal advice, spiritual, philosophical. For those that have never read The Art of Racing in the Rain, he gave the book to me and my family. I was looking back at some of our texts. We were the first people in the theater to see the movie when it came out, and Peter has just had a profound impact on us in many ways. And I share these personal comments really because I think it is certainly personal to me, but represents the relationship that Peter has with so many others involved in other real estate programs. Big brothers, big sisters. I think Peter's maintained a relationship with his little brother for decades. You may have even mentioned that you attended his wedding. I can't end without mentioning Pine Tree, which has been, I know, a labor of love for 30 years. I can speak to the $3 billion under management, and I'm sure that's grown in the last 24 hours. The multiple shopping centers in 30 states, over 20 million square feet. But I think what he would tell you, and I'm sure he will, is it's about the people at Pine Tree. That's what he's most proud of: the culture, the relationships, the camaraderie, the collaboration. I will end by sharing a few notes from people that I had reached out to that worked at Pine Tree. His belief in me gave the confidence to grow personally and professionally. He inspired me to think bigger, push further, and pursue goals I didn't even know I had. He saw potential in me at a time when I struggled to see it in myself. I often tell people that Peter is one of the greatest individuals I've ever met. He has changed the entire trajectory of my life. And by the way, I'm reading from my phone because I sent out, and I have notes on here also, but I sent out over the last couple days emails to people, and I continued to get them in this morning that I didn't even have time to put them on paper. paragraphs upon paragraphs. That was one of multiple paragraphs. Here's another one. I have had many teachers, but outside of my parents, Peter's mentorship means the most to me. Many of the lessons were purely by watching his example, the best way to learn anything. I learned how to communicate in a more empathetic, interested way. Interested is a key word. Peter is authentically interested in other people. That is one of his superpowers. More. Peter Borzak is quite simply one of the most remarkable human beings I've ever known. He lives with a rare combination of authenticity, emotional honesty, and intellectual clarity that is both inspiring and grounding. Peter became more than a mentor. He showed me how to blend the emotional, intellectual, philosophical, and passionate dimensions of life into a meaningful career. My lessons came from watching him. I could go on and on and on, but I'm just really proud to have Peter in my life, very appreciative. He's had a major impact on me, and I know he's had a major impact on others. So I'm looking forward to learning more. And with that, I'm going to invite Andy and Peter up.
All right.
This is the most overhyped presentation in the history of real estate.
Classic Peter, right? Peter, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying yes to joining us today. This is a full room that's here to hear this wisdom, and I think, frankly, needs to hear about the authenticity in which you have been a leader. At this Chicago Leadership Breakfast that we hold every year, this is what it's about. It's talking about people who change the lives of others through commercial real estate, through the people that work for them, through the properties that they own, the communities that they touch, all of that. But I want to start off and let you just say, you've had some really great connections to us for a long time here at Marquette.
I have, and the risk of sounding like I'm pandering, the Marquette program is amazing. This investment portion that you've introduced is also incredible and really groundbreaking. My experience with students want to hear and deal with reality more than theory, and so getting students involved in a real project and investing real dollars is amazing. But going back to my first Harold Eisenberg mentorship was Theron May, more than 20 years ago. Pat Bernanke was in 2007, and now I watch these kids from Marquette year after year. Andy Sinclair, Anthony Mule's here, Patrick Fuller, who's on the Pine Tree team. 20 years of watching Marquette students just conquer the world. It's amazing.
Well, we appreciate all that you've done to support. I mean, and the leaders that you mentioned, by the way, are some of our most incredible alums that are inspiring many others. And maybe that's part of your story. There's a lot of inspiration to other people, which I think is really fun. Hey, let's set the stage a little bit. I just took a few slides from you, just so everybody in the audience who may not be familiar with Pine Tree has a little bit of context. This first one just kind of talks about how you've been doing this for 30 years. That you've got 83 employees, $3 billion in assets under management, 81 shopping centers, $1.1 billion in acquisitions in just the last few years. I know I had that right. I think we have your map up here showing your acquisitions across the country just since 2021. Just a few, probably a few late nights there, but pretty fun from that standpoint. And it's not just about this. There's outsized returns as well. That you have this 11.9% adjusted IRR. It's just remarkable. So it's not just about you're going out there and buying these shopping centers, but you're driving real results because of this. How the heck do you find time to be a good person, Peter? I don't. But let's actually go back to your story a little bit on this. So let's start from. I love asking people the question, what's the Peter that we wouldn't know from LinkedIn, from your story?
Probably, what isn't on LinkedIn, because nobody posts these kinds of things, would be just all the struggles. And someone mentioned the GFC. I know maybe for students or young people who don't remember the great financial crisis of 2008, 9, 10, it was pretty devastating for the entire business community, but especially the real estate community. So maybe something that isn't known is that I was literally borrowing on my credit cards to get our first deal done after the GFC and to make payroll. That was how bad it got.
Yeah. What an incredible time. You've seen a lot in these 30 years. By the way, am I right that there's no way this guy has been doing this for 30 years when you look at him? Nicest guy or youngest looking guy? I don't know what it is, Peter, but let's go back to the people who've influenced you. You know, so everyone in this room has had mentors, family and friends who've really been so life-changing for them. You've done that for so many people. But who have those people been for you in your life?
The biggest one was my dad. I would say, like, I would put my dad here, and I would say everybody else would be, like, distant second. My dad is still alive. He's 93 years old. Memory is not so great anymore, so harder to communicate with him about things, but he's remains, but has always been an incredible man. And just his values, his approach to life, and he was also a businessman. My grandfather started a printing business. My dad went into that business and ran it for his entire career. And all of the major life lessons that I've learned have come from him.
So let's go back a little bit in time in your story. So you're growing up and you're watching your dad run this printing business. Did you know it was going to be real estate that you went into someday even then? Or how did that come about? Tell us that story.
No, I had no idea that I didn't know anything about real estate until my senior year in college. So that's not a good roadmap for how to start a career in real estate. But it was also a different time back then. But my grandfather had started this company. My dad, I mentioned, ran it, and it was inspiring to me to see how they would interact with the people at the company. And they had about 150 people, a lot of different levels of people doing all kinds of different things. But what was amazing to me is that they knew everybody's name, they knew everybody's story, and when they would walk me around the plant, they would introduce me to people, and it was all very personal for them. And it was this was at a time like in the 1970s when nobody was talking about culture, work culture. It didn't exist back then. But those are the kind of people that they were, and that was the way that they ran their business. And that was what inspired me to want to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. I have a cousin who introduced me to the real estate business. I got an internship my senior year and was lucky enough to get a job. But I was late to the journey there.
Tell us about those early days in your career, the late nights, the struggles, the early successes that started to turn you on to, hey, this could be really something great.
I started a company called Balcor, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was a company that was owned by Jerry Reinsdorf, who owns the Bulls and the White Sox. And I was an analyst. I mean, what I did then in my career started in 1984. So those first few years when I was underwriting potential acquisitions, and we've got a table of Pine Tree guys here right in the middle who are doing exactly the same thing that I did back then. We were working till midnight, but we loved it. I mean, there was a bonding, there was a camaraderie that we had that I see with these guys that it was hard, but it was great, and we loved it, and that was what really got us hooked.
But taking the leap from working for someone else to becoming a true entrepreneur, owning your own business. You know, most of the time, Peter, when people make that leap, it's because they just can't handle working for someone else. I don't sense that was your problem. What was it that made you take that leap, that big risk, and start your career at owning your own firm?
So one of the things that I know you had this maybe in the list of questions, but there's a club just like the Union League Club that used to exist about a half a block over called the Standard Club, and I joined there because my dad was a member, and I really joined just to play in the basketball game. That was the only reason I figured that one day I would use it for business, but they had a good basketball game, and one day, about 5 years into my career, I'm sitting on the sidelines, and a couple guys come sit down next to me and say, hey, we're going to start a company, and the Pritzker family is going to back us because one of the people in the game was the sort of consigliere for the Pritzker family. Do you want to be a part of it? And I basically just had to nod my head yes. And the company was called Plymouth Court Properties. It didn't work out very well, but that was what got me sort of out on my own. So I don't really get credit for sort of taking that risk and, putting it all on the line the way that you think of when you think of somebody starting a company, like what Pat Bernanke did when he was living out of his car when he started his company.
Yeah. What's the best part of your basketball game?
I could jump. That was my only real talent.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah,
You have
I
a
could
good-
dunk a football.
You can dunk a football?
I can't now.
No kidding. Okay, good. Yeah, no, that's pretty impressive, Peter. We had not talked about that. Before we kind of start to dive a little bit more into this, I think it's important. Is there something from your journey not a lot of people maybe know about that you would want to share with us today?
Probably just the extent of how hard it was to get through the GFC and even the years after that. We are all retail, so all that we've ever done is develop or operate or invest in shopping centers, and the retail portion of the real estate business was the last to recover after the GFC. So even in 2009 and 10, when residential was taking off and industrial was taking off, retail was still really sluggish and really slow. And so it was just an extended period of trying to get some momentum. And we never missed a payroll, but there were times when I wasn't sure how we were going to get there. And it was about 4 or 5 years of spectacular struggles. But I would also argue, like, by far the biggest growth period of my life.
I would imagine that there's a lot of inspiration during that time that it laid the seeds of your success today. And I want to get into that a little bit once we get into a little bit more about Pine Tree and performance and the market and whatnot. But first, let's just touch on the Eisenberg Foundation. Peter and Sheila, you've been involved since the beginning. And the foundation and some of the work with things like Career Day, we have a lot of students going to Career Day here today, this afternoon. What were the early days like of the foundation that you can remember? Why did you want to get involved with it?
So I went to my first, I wasn't at the beginning. I think Harold died, 1999, and the foundation started that year. Amazing to have Sheila Eisenberg here, who is the heart and soul of the foundation, who's Harold's widow, and an incredible lady. And so I went to my first dinner, and 2 things happened. One was that Peter and his brother and sister got up on the stage to talk about their dad. And I just looked at these 3 and was like, look at these 3 kids. Like, this guy must have been amazing to have raised these 3 unbelievable kids. And then Al Claremont got up to talk about the mentor program, and I didn't know that anything like that existed. And so at that point, I'm about 20 years into my career, and the idea of sort of mentoring or, sort of sharing what you know, like that was incredible. And so I signed up on the spot, and it really went from there. And I think, like I said, Theron May from Marquette was my first mentee.
I think there's a real big lesson there that if you are willing to start something so authentic and meaningful to help other people, people are going to want to be a part of it. Would you agree?
100%. And there's no other organization that does what the Harold Eisenberg Foundation does in terms of connecting the academic real estate community to the professional community and giving kids experiences to meet professionals, to compete in the real estate competition, to build their networks. And then early in their careers, there also aren't places for young 20-somethings to network and create that community. It's an amazing organization, and one of the things Peter talked about or sort of alluded to is that there's no reason why the foundation should be limited to Chicago or the Midwest. All the things that the foundation does would apply nationally and to every university in the country.
Yeah, and I should mention it's been an inspiration, the foundation, to so many others as well. I know Megan Abraham is here from the Goldie Initiative, unbelievable support system for women in commercial real estate careers and scholarship. This ecosystem that has kind of started here in Chicago, let's go Chicago, for this kind of support for students is just unbelievable. So I'm really proud that we have what we have here in Chicago. Now, this starts to get back into a theme I had mentioned before, which is this idea of collaboration. And I want to start to turn the page toward Pine Tree again. and I want to talk about culture. You already brought up this idea of culture. You grew up in a space where your dad never talked about it, but you felt it from the beginning. So as you've been building Pine Tree, has culture been something that you've done intentionally, different than your dad, or has it been similar to what they built, which is unintentional but something special where there was a lot of meaning for people? What has it been?
I think it's had to be very intentional. I think now, maybe more now because people are working remotely and there are just a lot more distractions. I think you've got to be more intentional about, and especially over the last few years, we went through this period called the Great Resignation where people were job hopping because they could, because there were opportunities, but also because people were looking for something more, something better. We've had to be really deliberate about it, but I think a lot of it just comes back to like what kind of environment do I want to work in? How do I want the environment to feel? I like to be able to we work in a high pressure business. The stakes are high, and we are always one step from disaster. There are always critical issues that can be catastrophic in our world, and so there's enormous pressure all the time. And to me, the way to balance that pressure is through laughter and having fun. And so trying to strike that balance of making sure that people understand that there's a lot on the line, but also that doesn't mean that we can't laugh and we can't find the humor and we can't break up the pressure. That is deliberate because that's the kind of environment I want to be part of.
All right, tell us some stories, if you can, that kind of illustrate this more. I mean, it's one thing to talk about it, but to kind of start to experience it and feel it, can you give us some examples of what that looks like?
Well, when you had asked me about like the couple examples that I was going to get, one example of something that I think helps contribute to culture would be a mistake that I made a few years ago. We took over a large portfolio in 2020. It was 100 shopping centers. It was an existing company that had been taken private, and that portfolio was going to sell. We knew that, and as it sold, it created some challenges for us because our portfolio size was shrinking, and so our team was too large. And the worst thing that you can do for culture is to have to let people go. But we had no choice. We had to let people go. And there was a particular person at the company who we let go, and it was a big mistake. She was very popular. She was good at what she did. There were some reasons that contributed to why we made the decision, but it was clearly a mistake, and we felt it right away. And I think my willingness to admit to everybody, I screwed this up. I made a mistake. We were able to bring her back. She was willing to come back. I think a lot of it is just having people believe what you tell them, and nobody's always right. So that was an example that I thought of where like I really screwed something up, but at least was willing to own up to it.
Were there moments over the years as well where you watched something happen in the company that made you really proud that you had established that culture? Things that others had done, actions, things like that?
Honestly, I see it all the time. I mean, this group right here, I mean, and some of these guys have only been with us a short time, a few months, but yeah, I see it all the time. And what I love the most is when somebody who we hire who's new to the company will say, everybody's been so helpful. I can't believe how everybody's been offering to help me or take me out for lunch or whatever. That's the stuff that warms my heart because that's just that's not. I don't have anything to do with that. That's just the way that people are behaving.
So my last thing on culture, we have to go back to the great financial crisis. Because culture can be a lot easier when things are going well. But when they're not, you really see what the core of that is. What was it like trying to maintain the culture during the great financial crisis back there in 2008, 2009, 2010?
Yeah, the hardest part, I think, was that I knew that people were watching me, and I knew that if I showed the real stress, if people at the company had known that I was completely bankrupt and was literally like borrowing on all my credit cards to just try to to make payroll and to put up the earnest money for our first deal. I think that would have probably driven a lot of people to the door. So, part of it was just trying to keep my composure. But I think the other part was just communicating that there was a commitment to holding our team together and that they believed that. And so I think there also was maybe a feeling of sort of like it's us against the world, like we're gonna get through this one way or another. So I think maybe sometimes when there's a crisis, it can actually bind you together.
Yeah, amen to that. So, okay, let's get to Pine Tree a little bit. So, Peter, why retail? There's all these amazing asset classes out there. Why did you settle on retail as the one that you wanted to invest in?
So I mentioned this first company that we started. It was called Plymouth Court Properties, and we started it in 1990. The worst, even though the GFC was horrible, the worst real estate crisis of my career was in the early 90s. And that's because the financial crisis was about just a global meltdown in capital markets and in equity valuations. But the real estate market specifically was not as was really not upside down. It was in a fairly healthy state in a lot of ways. Maybe not the single family home market, but in the early 90s, the crisis was because we had wildly overbuilt every single product type. In the 1980s, there were tax benefits to build new property that meant that you could get, there was an economic benefit even if there was no demand for that real estate. And so real estate people were overly optimistic anyway. If you give us an incentive to build where it doesn't matter if the project is economically viable, we're going to build, and that's what we did. And we wildly overbuilt the market, and the collapse was spectacular in the early 90s. So we started this company in order to buy distressed real estate, but I was just too young in my career to understand cycles, and it was a scary time, and so we just didn't make the most of that opportunity. And we did a couple of deals, but anyone who was investing in scale in the early 90s did spectacularly well, and we just didn't take advantage of it enough. And as we started to get into 1994 and 1995, the markets were recovering, and that whole strategy was just obsolete. So I met a guy. We were looking at buying a couple of shopping centers that he had built. He and I connected, we bonded. He was working for a family that didn't share his business ethics, and he was looking to make a change. I needed a new strategy because buying distressed real estate was no longer viable, and so we got together, and he was a retail guy, and that was it. I mean, he was a retail developer, and so that became the product type.
So it sounds like it was a little bit more about the people that you were trying to connect yourself with than necessarily the asset type. Give me a little bit more to that.
Yeah, no, that's right. I had been a generalist up to that point. I had been involved in really every asset class. Didn't have any particular expertise. But one of the things that I recognized was that just for me, I didn't like being a generalist. I didn't like being sort of jack of all trades, master of none. I didn't feel like I had any real edge. And what I liked about the fact that he was a retail specialist and that we were going to focus on a single asset class meant that we could really have a deep understanding and really know that asset class and have judgment about it. And that's what I liked about that move.
Is that your edge today still? Has it changed over time?
100%. And that's the reason that even during the 2010s when retail was out of favor and being disrupted and retail real estate valuations were going down, REIT stocks were going down, we stuck with that program because we had built our whole story and our whole team around having retail expertise. And so it was not so easy to pivot. I mean, in hindsight, probably we should have pivoted into industrial. I'd probably be retired right now. But we built our whole team and expertise around retail, and that's all we know. We are very one-dimensional, but we know it at the deepest level.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was not your only partner over the years. you've had some really important partners over this 30-year career, and especially with Pine Tree. Talk about those different partnerships, how they were different, how they were similar. What bound you to those partners that you've had over the years?
Well, the guy who I started the company with, Barry Herring, we started in '95. In 2010, Barry decided to sort of bow out. I think during the financial crisis, he sort of just lost his stomach for the business. And so he now owns a hotel with his family in Indiana, in Brown County, Indiana. In 2015, I brought a partner into the business, and that was because I still had a mountain of debt left over from the GFC. Even though he had started to get some momentum going in 2013, 14, and 15, it wasn't building fast enough to be able to pay off the debt. So I brought a partner in, sold a portion of the company, and that allowed me to pay off that debt and get our balance sheet in order. It was a family based in Hong Kong. They had a public company on the Taiwanese Stock Exchange and had a patent for the touchscreen for the iPhone and iPad, and so it made a lot of money. So they became a minority partner in the business, and then in 2021, the guy who I did the deal with was getting divorced from the founder's father, and so the family wanted out of the business, and so I brought Invesco in 2021, and that was also partly to provide co-investment capital. As the retail market was starting to improve, we needed to increase the size of our co-investment capital base in order to co-invest with our institutional investors. And so Invesco brought, in addition to some balance sheet capital, they also brought $40 million of co-investment capital, which was helpful.
Absolutely, but and that, I'm sure, has been part of what has supercharged your performance. The 1.1 billion in acquisitions in just the last few years, unbelievable. What was it about the connection to Invesco that made them the right partner, the human side of this?
Just, I mean, good people. I mean, and that's something that everyone here who's in the real estate business, we all know, like, there's an expression, you'll never do a good deal with a bad person or a bad deal with a good person. I mean, the quality of the people is everything. It's everything. And it goes even beyond just, I think sometimes the illusion is, you meet somebody and they're the relationship person, like you meet a banker or you meet someone at an investment company, and sometimes the illusion is that that's the person that you have the relationship with. For me, you have to know who the decision maker is, because when there's a problem, especially with a lender, and part of the issue with the GFC was having personal recourse on loans and having to go to the workout person at the bank and deal with the credit people. Those are not the people you meet when you're borrowing money and doing a deal, but those are the people that you meet when there's a problem. So knowing who the decision makers are, and just making sure you're dealing with good people. And that doesn't mean that they're going to go easy on you necessarily, but that they're going to be ethical, and they're going to be straight, and they're people you can talk to. But that is literally everything.
You know, there's one other real huge uncertainty in your career that I think we need to talk about, and that is the rise of e-commerce. And I think we all take that for granted today, but when you go back to the 2000s, you had the rise of e-commerce, and then you had the great financial crisis. You had these two major headwinds that were hitting you. Tell me a little bit more about how you started to think about navigating the e-commerce world in a brick and mortar business, and how that's maybe shifted over time.
So it really hit after the GFC. E-commerce was starting to grow in the 2000s, but there were still, brick and mortar retail was still very strong, and there were still several stores deep in every category. You know, there was Bed Bath and linens and things. There was Circuit City, Best Buy. There were many players in each category. What we saw really was the 2010s that we started to see the massive consolidation, and we started to see e-commerce make inroads and really start to disrupt the retail real estate business. And that was part of what made the entire decade of the 2010s challenging. The way that we adjusted to it was, and this is one of the great things about retail real estate, is that it is not a commodity business. Every single shopping center is not the same, and shopping centers don't behave based on markets. So, you know, in residential, if rental rates are going down, everybody's going to be impacted, because if you can't rent an apartment on this side of the street, you can go to the other side of the street. where retail is so asset specific that one shopping center can be 100% leased at pro forma rents, and the center across the street, you literally can't give space away. So the way that we addressed it was we saw this consolidation coming, and we said, we need to focus on just the best shopping center, the A shopping center, the best center on the corner, or the best center in the submarket. We need to know that we're going to be the first choice of a retailer if they come into that submarket. And we thought that that would insulate us from the consolidation, because there is always a flight to quality in retail. And retailers will pay up to go to a center where they can do business and make money. And so that's what we did. Now, that wasn't enough in a lot of cases, because when Amazon announced that they were going to buy Whole Foods, my first reaction to that was, wow, this is great. Here's the biggest e-commerce company in the world, and they're saying that they need a brick and mortar presence, and they're willing to spend $4.5 billion to buy a brick and mortar distribution. But the marketplace didn't respond that way. The marketplace said, this is the death knell for brick and mortar retail. And so values dropped dramatically, like 200 basis points, almost overnight in the summer of 2017. And that created a lot of problems for us and a lot of disruption.
So, okay, so let's bring it past now COVID. And because then now it feels like the e-commerce equation and its impact on the brick and mortar from a retail standpoint has kind of shifted, I would imagine. What's your strategy right now to balance the e-commerce side with the brick and mortar and ensure that shopping centers are thriving?
So the strategy hasn't changed. I mean, we are still absolutely as focused on finding the A asset, but the biggest change, and this is, we see this happening in office right now, and there's a lot of similarities between what the office world is going through and what we went through for the last, really, like, I would say it was probably a 13-year period from 2007 or 8 to 2021, was that there was virtually no new development during that entire period. And that lack of development, plus the fact that a lot of shopping centers were repurposed, meant that supply actually went down over that period of time. And yet, the population grew and business grew. So the supply-demand metrics finally came into focus after the pandemic. And what was interesting was during the lockdown in the first few months of the pandemic, the conversation was, this is again, the final nail in the coffin. Retail is dead. Everyone's going to have everything delivered to their homes. But that was not the case, and as soon as things started to open up, people flocked back to the stores in record numbers. And we also saw, largely because of the pandemic, I think part of it was millennium kids getting older and getting to the next phase of life, getting married, having kids, moving out of urban cores into suburbs, people feeling like they needed more space for health reasons, work from home, I need a home office. There was a migration back to the suburbs that was helpful for the suburban shopping center that we deal in, but also just the realization that that the lack of new supply had really brought the supply-demand fundamentals into balance. And right now, the national portfolio of shopping centers is 95+% leased. If you look at any of the big shopping center REITs, they're all reporting 95% and better leasing rates and or leasing levels, and also increases in rental rates, and it's become a very healthy sector.
I love it. So I want to hear from you. Do you think there's some trends in retail that are being overlooked today? I mean, what are you watching? Because you've seen this for many years now.
I did. It's actually starting to get noticed, though, right now. I think the two things that I would say have still been sort of under the radar, one would be the Midwest, and that's part of that has been post-GFC. Chicago has had a few tough years here. As not only a lifelong Chicagoan myself, but my parents and all four of my grandparents were born here, so we go back a long way, and I love this city, and it's been heartbreaking to see just how the challenges Chicago's faced. But investors have really completely redlined Chicago. We have not been able to buy a single shopping center here since the GFC because we can't raise a single dollar to invest here from an institution, but that's starting to change. Okay. And I would say it's similar in Minneapolis and some other Midwest cities. St. Louis is another one, but the narrative is starting to change around that. And then the other thing would be just the basic power center. Grocery has been much more in favor, and investors still love grocery, but have continued to sort of ignore the power center space, which is why power centers are trading 100 to 200 basis points above cap rates for pure grocery. But we're also seeing a lot more investor interest right now in power centers. So I would have said those would have been the overlooked trends, but they're starting to be noticed.
People are starting to know. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to have another question, by the way, for our audience. We will have time for a couple of questions. So if you have questions circling in your minds right now, hold on to them because we're gonna get to at least one or two of those here in a moment before we get into kind of a final lightning round as we finish up here, Peter. But I have to ask, when you think about Chicago more broadly, as you bring up the city that you love, the city you've known your entire life, you know, how do you look at the challenges that we're facing as a city? We had Sierra Boatwright up here last year, and her counterpart from Milwaukee, Lafayette Crump, the DCD commissioners, talking about the challenges that we're facing. As a native Chicagoan yourself, what do you think we need here in Chicago to really start to get that energy back?
Yeah, I think that's too big a question. I mean, look, I'm a shopping center guy. I don't
shucks,
really,
I'm just
yeah.
a shopping center guy.
I mean, there's well-known budget issues here that at some point have got to be addressed. I think the other big issue has been crime, and it feels like it's moving in the right direction. I'm not sure that Chicago has done a great job of telling the story, that people continue to move here. Young people continue to flock here from all over the country, but especially all over the Midwest. I think it feels like Chicago, to live here, it feels like Chicago is doing well. That's not the way that it looks from the outside, and that's not what a lot of people are seeing. So I think part of it is we need to tell a better story.
Yeah, I completely agree, by the way, even though, you know, Milwaukee in here, I love everything about this city. It's incredible, the energy, the people, the gumption to this city is unbelievable. And I think you're a great embodiment of that, Peter. We have time for one or two questions from the audience before we finish up today. Please go ahead, raise your hand. When you ask your question, I'll try to repeat it for us so that everybody can hear. We'll go with that. And students, that includes you, by the way. There will be no tests, but you know, it's always good. Questions from the audience? Yes, sir. So the question was, so everyone can hear it, that these interior malls, they used to be the big thing. Now a lot of multifamily buyers are coming in and buying some of those big boxes. Do you see this as a continued trend?
Yes, 100%. And there's reasons why the enclosed mall is struggling. Much more expensive to operate, much more expensive to occupy space there. The fact that there's a lack of visibility, harder to know, and malls tend to be sort of like it's all or nothing. You either have a mall that's healthy and vibrant and there's a lot of activity and it feels great, or it can be a slippery slope and can fall off a cliff, and it's pretty depressing to walk through an empty mall. So I think it's just going to be a story of the haves and have-nots. The A malls, the top maybe 300-400 of the 1,200 or maybe 1,100 malls that exist, will continue to do well and get stronger. Oak Brook Mall is probably the best example in Chicago of just a juggernaut mall that will continue to be a high performer. And then the bottom tier, they're going to have to be repurposed. And so I think we'll continue to see that trend, definitely.
Great question.
And the full price department stores also are struggling.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Great question. More questions? Great question. So it's a two-part question. So first, you've had hundreds of students that have come through, that you've mentored. What's some of the advice you're always repeating? And then the second part was you've had a lot of stressful moments in your life. You know, what were kind of some of the things that were featured to help you kind of get through some of that?
So thank you, Patrick. The best advice that I give to anybody, but especially in a professional setting, like, to me, there's one thing that is like existential, and everything else is, it becomes a detail, and that is to find a way to get your mind to be calm. To me, emotions are not helpful in business in any way. Your emotions are lying to you. Your emotions are trying to protect your ego, and feeling angry or indignant or whatever emotion you feel in a moment is it's fine. We all feel emotions, so I'm not saying that you're not going to feel it and you're not going to have to deal with it. But to me, the important thing is never doing anything or taking action or firing off an email or a letter or opening your mouth until you found a way to get your mind calm. The worst thing in life is regret. There's nothing worse. Even worse than loss is regret. Worse than loss is knowing that you caused something that you could have avoided if you hadn't done something really stupid. And finding whatever it is, for me, it's music and it's working out. Those are things that I can do to get my mind calm and to get back in balance. But I try not to react to things until I'm thinking rationally. And I feel like that gives you the best odds of success.
And stress.
Yeah, so that was probably the best thing that came out of in the GFC. It was worse than just not having money. It was worse than just like being worried about making payroll. It was these recourse loans, and Krista Casper's here, and fortunately I didn't have any recourse with Associated Bank, but I had recourse with several other banks. And there were many people who existed in the world who had a loaded gun that was pointed at my head. And I knew that at any day, if any one of those people wanted to pull the trigger, they could have pushed me into bankruptcy, they could have pushed Pine Tree into bankruptcy, and it would have been over. And it's one of those things that it's easy to say, and you hear this a lot. People say, well, control the things you can control and let go of everything else. Really easy to say, much harder to actually own. But during that period, because all the illusion of having certainty was stripped away, and I knew that I was facing absolute disaster in every moment, the choice was to just surrender, to let go of the result. And we're here with a Catholic university, it's a little bit like just having faith in God. I'm going to have faith in God. All I can do is I'm going to put my best foot forward today. I'm going to do everything I can, and I am literally going to let go of the result. And what I found was that I would be peaceful with the result, even if it meant bankruptcy, as long as I knew I did everything I could to avoid it. So the formula for me became give everything I've got all day, bring good intentions, and let go of the result, and have faith that I don't have any control over anything that is happening, and whatever happens, happens, and I'll deal with it. And that, being able to internalize that, gave me an ability to find peace in the midst of this sort of chaos that went on for a long time. And yeah, there's always chaos, right? There's always, like, anyone who's in business, we all feel like we're in the middle of chaos a lot.
Peter, that sounds like the formula. Bring everything I've got every day, do it with good intentions, and see what happens from there. I think that's beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Let's finish, Peter. We have a few lightning round questions for you. You have no idea about these, which is really fun. Let's start off easy. Who's your favorite band right now?
My favorite band right now? Wow, that's a great question. There aren't any bands anymore.
What are you listening to?
I'm listening to God, who's my favorite right now? Money Long.
Nice, okay. What's your go-to workout?
I go to a boxing gym 3 days a week.
Oh, okay, good to know. ICSC Las Vegas. Go every year.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, are you the guy who's jumping into bed, or you keep the networking going at some of the parties?
I'm not the late night. I'm 63 years old. I'm not the late night guy now. Yeah.
Here's
And I feel like I gamble for a living. Like going to the craps tables is not good odds.
These casinos got nothing on you. Interest rates. Oh, we'll get a little bit harder here, Peter. Up or down by the end of the year?
I mean, I have been a terrible predictor of interest rates my entire career. I will say that down because that is the conventional wisdom right now, and that's what smart people I listen to are saying.
How about by the end of next year? Still down or edging back up?
I'll say flat.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It wasn't an option, but you know, this is your stage.
Yeah.
Favorite asset class besides retail?
Favorite asset class meaning that I like,
Industrial,
or that I think
office.
or that I think has upside
No,
potential.
your favorite.
God, my favorite. I don't know. It's not industrial because all of us in retail resent industrial people. Industrial is the simplest, retail is rocket science compared to industrial. I'm sorry to insult the industrial people in the room, but it's 4 walls, that's it. So it's not them. I guess I would say residential. I mean, everyone's got to find a place to sleep, and yeah.
So, okay, in 1 or 2 words, what's the top risk for retail landlords like yourself in the next year? 1 or 2 words.
I think actually the top risk right now, which I didn't think I would be saying this, the top risk is that it's getting competitive, and there are a lot of investors lining up.
Getting
and
competitive.
Pricing getting high. Like that's becoming, which is great as for our existing portfolio, but you know we're looking to buy. So,
Favorite unique or alternative tenant in one of your shopping centers? Good story.
favorite, yeah. Yeah, we've got this great restaurant in our Glendale property. This little Italian restaurant that's just crushing it, and they're looking at these guys because they know what I'm talking about. There's this, it's becoming like an anchor tenant. This little Italian restaurant.
What's the name of it?
I can't even remember the name of it.
What's the name of it,
I
guys?
should.
Cecile?
Yeah, that's right.
Shout out to Cecile.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah.
Someone put this on the internet. All right, last question. Percent chance that Caleb Williams is the first quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards this year for the Bears? Percent chance.
I would say I think pretty good. I think pretty good. I mean, so we're 1-2. Like the first 2 games were pretty bad, but I think good. I mean, it's a pathetic statistic that we're the only team that hasn't had that, and you Wisconsin people, like you guys have had an incredible run with quarterbacks. That's not been the Bears' strong suit, but
Yeah. Well,
I'm
we
still
will see.
optimistic.
We will see there. And Peter, we can't thank you enough for your time today. Please join me in thanking Peter for being here. Thank you, Peter. That was fantastic. And of course, once again, I want to thank all of our sponsors for making today possible, for changing the lives of our students, my peer educators that are here, Reagan and Colette and Bill for joining us, Peter and Sheila Eisenberg. God bless you both. Thank you for being here. Save the date for our 7th annual real estate gala coming up on November 7th in Milwaukee, our biggest party of the year. And I want to wish everyone a really wonderful rest of your day, and to our students, a wonderful Eisenberg Career Day. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.